Happy 4th of July weekend, everybody. Hope everybody's by a pool, at the lake, somewhere with a beer or a cocktail in their hand, man, enjoying the weekend. One of the better weekends, of course, in the calendar year, Noah. I think a lot of fans would agree with that. And we got a special one today, man. I think we got a banger that we put together. And really, before we jump into it, we do want to give a shout out because as we were kind of brainstorming video ideas and stuff to kind of talk about as we were putting this together, Josh Wolf from West Virginia Mountaineers on SI Sports Illustrated actually had a list put together here on June 3rd. So obviously want to credit somebody who had already done it first, not trying to botch and steal anybody's idea. So really good article that he had put out. But some obvious changes on here with some big news. BYU quarterback, just landscape of things change in the offseason, things of that nature. And with that being said, Noah, let's start from 12 and work our way down to 1 of the, in order, our power rankings of the quarterbacks that West Virginia is going to face this year. And I'll be honest, Noah, before we kind of dive into it, we looked out a little bit as we were putting this together. No Rocco from Iowa State, no Avery Johnson from Kansas State, no Sawyer Robinson from Baylor. Those 3 names alone, when you think of the top quarterbacks in the Big 12, those are 3 of the top 5 guys, top 6 guys?
Yeah, 3 of the top 6 there. That's what I was kind of telling you before. I'm like, man, when you look at that schedule, not saying that the teams we play aren't good or aren't capable of winning games, but when you look at the quarterback matches we drew, it's kind of like we're in a situation where a lot of these quarterbacks, we have just as equal or better quarterback play than the other team. So I'm really confident and think West Virginia will soar over that 5.5 win total for the season that we see on DraftKings and FanDuel. I think at FanDuel, you can grab it right now at -105. So even better.
That bet looks better and better every day. So here we go, man. Let's go. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, like the video, leave a comment at the end, and let's roll. Coming in here at number 12, it is obviously going to be Robert Morris. Projected starter for this upcoming season is Zach Tanner, but they also have a quarterback that was there. There's past season, Anthony Schickett. I hope I say his name right. I've kind of been looking around. It's hard to get information on kind of those low to mid-major Division I schools. So it doesn't really matter who plays quarterback in this game. I'm sorry if you're a Robert Morris fan tuning into this. And I'm at the point now, I've talked so much shit on Robert Morris for absolutely no reason that if they even cover a spread versus us in week 1 there at Milan Puskar, I'm going to be in some deep shit. So, buddy, whoever it is, Zach Tanner, Schickett, whoever's under center, get ready to learn Jamori Robinson. Get ready to learn Fred Perry. Get ready to learn Zach Alley. Get ready to learn to just basically get your helmet taken off your head every snap, because we're going to go ahead and plan to send every single blitz package that we have to get it on film, all 22, and see what works best heading into bigger and better games. Sorry, Robert Morris. That's just the way it is. You're here at number 12. That's that. Number 11, though, one that you and I will both get into discussion because in the news here recently, we are going to put BYU's quarterback because we have no idea who is taking snaps right now for them. And we won't know until later this month when teams get back into practice, things like that. Obviously, the situation that happened with Retzloff, if you've kind of been out of the news, it's pretty interesting to say the least, but you just kind of have to do some deep diving into it. Obviously, if Retzloff plays, you're looking at somebody who's probably in the top, 6 range, obviously, probably 6 on our list, I would agree. But premarital sex, buddy, will get you put here at number 11 on this list and some of the things that he's dealing with right now, where he was suspended for BYU. Look into it, whatever you think. So, no, the 3 guys right now for BYU heading into this quarterback battle, Trayson Burgett, transfer from Western Michigan, McKay Hillstead from Utah State, and Bear Bockheimer, kind of the 3 names. And it's like, how are we going to put together? I don't even know. You know what I mean? I don't know these 3 quarterbacks. So maybe I'm a casual fan, I guess. But I was fully expecting Retzloff to obviously be their starting quarterback, as many other people did. Led them to 11-2 record last year. Bowl game win over Colorado, Shadur Sanders, Dion, all that. So, Noah, what's kind of your take here on the BYU quarterback situation in what will be a big game for us in our season this year?
Yeah, when you look at it, Gage, there's really no way to fairly put them on these power rankings. But one thing I'm going to say, when you go from a whole offseason of thinking that Retzloff is going to be your quarterback. What you're hoping for as the guy behind him plays a similar style and or fits a scheme that you are going to put him in, because let's be honest, you have designed your team with the sense that Retzloff would be the starting quarterback for this squad. So when you look at BYU and what they're able to do, we're looking at some a group of 5 quarterbacks that come up to take a swing at BYU. So kind of unproven, and we haven't saw them play, Power 5 football. So, or Power 4 now. It's just hard to rank them fairly in the sense we don't know these quarterbacks that well. And BYU doesn't know who that starting quarterback's going to be. I'm sure that'll be time will only tell.
They are kind of in a weird position, man. I cannot remember, obviously, something like this happening this close to your season getting ready to kick off. So, not saying that BYU is kind of in panic mode at all, but I would imagine that they might be in a little bit of panic mode, Noah, because to go from somebody like Retzloff, who is in the upper echelon in terms of Big 12 quarterbacks, to now you're kind of hoping and praying that you can find somebody to just be a serviceable guy, right? Run the offense, make the correct reads, don't turn the ball over, rely on their defense, which is always good. And of course, when you have a running back like LJ Morton, who's an absolute stud, I would imagine that he's going to be looking at probably 50 to 60 more carries than what he was probably projected before the Retzloff news. And that's kind of that. I mean, some of the names, especially the first 2 above this BYU situation, will kind of raise eyes, but it is what it is. And rolling into number 10, UCF, a team that's kind of in a similar boat as us, Noah. New coach, I don't say new coach, but former coach coming back to coach. And the first quarterback under his new regime will be Tayven Jackson from Indiana. And, once again, not really a proven guy statistically. Big frame as far as quarterback, 6'4", 212. I would imagine a very good arm from the little bit that we saw of him. Kind of giving me the rundown. What are you seeing from Tayven Jackson here, and what's the expectations for him at UCF this upcoming year?
I think Tayven Jackson here, the biggest thing is he played at Tennessee, so he was an SEC talent coming out of high school, transfers to Indiana last year, and obviously Indiana has a great season with their starting quarterback. Tayven Jackson gets Tayven Jackson gets the short end of the stick and backs up Rourke last year. He decides to come over to UCF. So what you're looking at here is a guy who has everything in his hands, because we know UCF always has playmakers, no matter what, because they're able to recruit Florida very, very well. So if he can just do what he needs to do in the sense of getting the ball out on time, be accurate with passes, he will have a successful season, and he'll be able to put more on tape than he's been able to the past 2 years. Our question mark, Gage, is he hasn't had a full season of experience. So not saying he's a freshman, but he's pretty much a freshman in the sense of he hasn't got snaps. He hasn't had to deal with adversity on the field. And we know in college football, even the environments that you play in can really impact, a game. So that's unfortunately where Tayven Jackson, why he falls on this list. No knock towards him, but whenever you don't have the numbers to support us putting you a little bit higher on the list. It's just how the cookie crumbles, Gage.
And once again, we are kind of making our own projections in terms of who's going to be starting. Some it's easy for some of these teams, others it's not, and it's obviously July 3rd, July 4th, the time you're watching this. So who knows? Same with Colorado when we talk about them. Who knows who's going to be playing quarterback by the time we roll around and play some of these teams? UCF obviously later in the schedule, so. Yeah, like you said, if things don't get off to a good start, I mean, we see all the time in college football, it will be a quick kind of transition to the next quarterback if you're not getting the job done. And that's kind of where it lies with Tayven Jackson. But yeah, it'll be an interesting look in terms of, how Zach Alley will kind of handle these quarterbacks that are unknown to us, right? The first time these guys are going to be getting large sample sizes of play. Obviously, the more film you have, the better. But sometimes the flip side of that, the less film that you have on guys and the quicker we play those guys, it's hard to prepare for guys you don't really have much to go off of. You're kind of just putting your best game plan together on the minimal snaps that you've saw of them. But Tayven Jackson there coming in at number 10. And then Noah, number 9, the more I keep thinking about this game and the more I kind of just keep piecing stuff together, Ohio is really going to be a trap game for us. I really believe it. And early in the season, too, is where it always makes things a little scary. Now we should absolutely not steamroll, but we should win this game. But their quarterback and number 9 in our list, Parker Navarro, comes back this season and actually in their bowl game this last year beat Jacksonville State 30-27. Obviously, Rich Rod was not coaching the team at that time, but some of the guys played in that bowl game that are now Mountaineers. So it's going to be, somewhat of some similarities in terms of who's across the field, things like that. But where Parker Navarro makes his money, Noah, is this rushing upside that he has. I mean, in 2024, this past season, you're looking at a guy at the quarterback position that ran for 1,054 yards and 18 touchdowns. So we're talking about a ton of design quarterback runs, a ton of quarterback sweeps, bootlegs, things of that nature, combined with a really good run game. And that's kind of where we see these MAC teams and other mid-major teams dominate certain teams, right? And we look for that in betting trends and stuff like that. When you dominate at the line of scrimmage and you're able to have really consistent quarterback play from a rushing aspect, you will be damn good at the mid-major level. Transitioning to that, if we are going to neutralize Navarro in the rushing attack, you have to win this game at the line of scrimmage. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Gage, if you're going to go into the game against Ohio, you're just going to say, Navarro didn't have very good passing numbers. I think he threw for 13 touchdowns last year, 11 interceptions. 11
interceptions. Roughly around 2,400 yards.
So a very shaky passer, in my opinion. But when you rush for 1,000 yards at the quarterback position, how many times do you need to throw the ball? That's the question West Virginia needs to ask themselves. But like you said, if you're able to dominate the line of scrimmage early, and you get Navarro in a situation where he has to throw the football and push the football down the field, that's where you're going to see a team like West Virginia be very, very successful against a group of 5 team in Ohio. So I just think that Navarro showed that he can be a very, very good quarterback. And if he has fixed the offseason kind of decision making and things of that need, if he's been able to do that and upgrade as a player in the offseason, he could very easily be in that top 6 quarterback we play this year. But I always do say this, Gage, and it's kind of an interesting take I have. If with the turmoil of college football and the NIL, and the transfer portal, if you stayed at that mid-major or the group of 5 level, a team didn't value enough to come and get you. So that's kind of my question with Navarro. Okay, if you were the real deal, why didn't somebody come get you? Not saying he's not, right? I haven't went back and watched film on everything, but just looking at numbers and such, I thought he might have more looks than he obviously received in the portal.
Yeah, well taken. Something to definitely consider. And in the world of NIL now, it is absolutely crazy. It's just hard to speculate. Maybe he turned down a number to come back, the whole loyalty aspect, things like that. You just never know. Before we transition to our next quarterback, Noah, something to kind of take into consideration. Last season, they opened up with Syracuse at Syracuse. Obviously, Kyle McCord, Aronde Gadsden, who was a draft pick for the Chargers this year. They closed that game at 17.5-point underdogs and actually covered that line 38-22. They ended up losing the game. But that's something to kind of take into consideration, because I would imagine that we would open that game up as probably somewhere between 12.5 to 13.5-point favorites. I would imagine it's going to be 2 touchdowns. Just kind of off the top of my mind. We'll see what they do. But definitely will be something to put stock in and put consideration into, obviously being at Ohio in Athens. So lot to take in for that game. One of our favorite games on this upcoming schedule. So next, Noah, on this list, number 8. Tell me a little bit about Connor Weigman, the Texas A&M transfer now to the University of Houston.
This was a guy that we kind of questioned that if Jimbo Fisher were to be hired at West Virginia this past year, would Weigman come with Jimbo, because Jimbo recruited Weigman whenever he was a starter there. Weigman, unfortunately, was injured last year. I believe Marcel Reed from Texas A&M took his job. The thing is, Weigman is a solid quarterback. He played in the SEC. Unfortunately, he did have injuries. So there's a little bit of question marks on kind of like how he protects the football. But I think Weigman's going to be a very, very solid quarterback in the Big 12. But there is a difference between Big 12 and SEC football. SEC football, you can rely on that run game a little bit more because you have a little bit more beef in the trenches. That's the biggest difference between SEC and Big 10 football and ACC and Big 12 football. It's in the trenches, right? And that's why in SEC you're going to see a lot more times these guys turn around and hand the ball off, and the running back's going to get a lot of the work. Unfortunately, on the other side of things, he doesn't have that ability here in the Big 12. So we're going to have some question marks about Weigman's performance in the Big 12.
One thing about it, because I remember last football season, week 1, when they played Notre Dame, you and I were kind of looking over the slate, and we ended up dropping a good bit of coin on Notre Dame, and they won that game. It looks like at times he really struggles to read the field, especially against defenses who, I'm not comparing. I'm completely blanking on is it Freeman, Notre Dame's head coach? I'm completely blanking. Marcus Freeman. I'm not comparing Zach Alley to Marcus Freeman, but when you're able to kind of run this disguise coverage defense where you're able to send multiple packages, you can roll out different shell, play cover 2, but it looks like cover 4, things like that. It's like you can make a quarterback like Weigman, who is talented. It's nothing with him in terms of arm talent, physical traits, things like that. Sometimes it's just a decision making that brings these guys from SEC caliber play down to Big 12. And as I say that, it's like, oh my gosh, you just went from a Reese's cup to a Hershey Kiss. Still a really good player, things like that. But yeah, I think at Houston, man, that's going to be another interesting game because there's I can see a world where he completely balls out this season. I really do think that because, like I said, the talent is there. That's not the issue. If he gains his confidence back, he's got the trust of the coach there at Houston now, and he's undoubtedly the QB1. He knows, hey, I can go out and have a Kyle McCord game from last season where I can throw 4 picks, but I'm going to have 5 touchdowns and throw for 345 yards and get a win. So, yeah, he can be a gunslinger. That'll be interesting to watch. One, I would imagine Zach Alley kind of has penciled in, and once again, another game later in our season. So Connor Weigman there at number 8, and a familiar foe at number 7, Noah, Jalon Daniels, quarterback of the Kansas Jayhawks. And man, this guy is kind of the definition of like flip a coin and you'll see what quarterback you get, because sometimes you flip a coin and he looks extremely good. He's an extremely good dual threat quarterback. He's able to make a ton of throws. He's able to lead, drive after drive after drive, and then flip that coin again. And you might get somebody who it's like, what is going on here? And that's kind of been the story for him just as a college quarterback. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. If we get the good Jalon Daniels, who beat us a couple years ago in Morgantown in OT game, we've got a lot of question marks on, man, are we going to be able to stop this guy? Because when he's elite, he is elite, Gage, and there's no question about it. But at the same time, another guy who sometimes has some questionable throws into coverage, a guy who doesn't always take care of the football, doesn't know when to slide to protect himself. There are question marks about Jalon Daniels. When he is playing well, he is going to be a very, very tough quarterback to beat. But if we get a little bit of what we saw in the previous year, Jalon Daniels, that's why he kind of falls on the list for us.
And you said, go ahead.
Just to hit on this, I mean, you have to remember, I believe Koltenicky, hopefully I'm not butchering that last name, from Penn State. That is when he had a lot of success at Kansas. So whenever you roll in and look at this is Lance Uphold offense. He's more of a defensive mind coach, but this is a completely new offense at Kansas without Koltenicky calling the play. So Koltenicky can obviously design receivers open. We've seen it this past year at Penn State.
Yep, that was the take that I was going to push you to share, because that is important to note, and that's kind of when Kansas offense was really clicking, and they were really scary that year to play. Obviously, like they beat us in a home game with the rain pouring down in OT. And yeah, man, I mean, you said it best. It's like sometimes you get a really talented quarterback and you just have coaching turnover or system turnover and stuff like that, and it just varies, right? He fits Kolenicki's system but doesn't fit this one. It's odd how it works, but that's the game of football, and some of it is always just trying to find the right coach in terms of coordinator, if it's your head coach calling plays, paired up with the right quarterback. And I think sometimes he really suffers from that because he's not getting the type of offensive scheme and system that he deserves as a player. So kind of like our final take there on Daniels. And number 6, team that'll be coming into Milan Puskar Stadium, Colorado. And we all wanted this last year because we all wanted to see Shedeur. We all wanted to see Travis Hunter, Dion. It would have been absolutely awesome to see those guys in Morgantown. But don't get it twisted. We're still going to see a pretty good quarterback, Noah. Kaidon Salter coming up from Liberty. The big question mark, obviously, with Colorado is what does this look like now going from Shedeur and Hunter to where they are now? Is it going to be Salter? Is it going to be Julian Lewis, the 4-star quarterback who, by the time that we play them, might be the quarterback if things are not going well? We know Colorado's beefed up their offensive line, which was a big question mark this past season, and they spent a ton of NIL money and kind of recruiting everything in there. So Salter now comes in, and at Liberty, I mean, he had success in that 2023 season, 2,800 yards, 32 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Obviously, kind of team and talent level you need to take into consideration. But when Liberty was going good there, man, they were a team that we were hammering the spread on almost weekly, especially when Salter was the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, Liberty is kind of like a powerhouse in the Group of 5 football has been in recent years. Last year, they kind of had a little bit of a down year, and not even really a down year for many football teams, but for Liberty, it was a down year. Salter kind of regressed last year as a quarterback, 1,800
Heavily.
yards, almost 1,900 yards passing the football, 15 touchdowns. But he did rush for almost 600 yards with 7 touchdowns. So with Salter, you have a little bit of a rushing upside. But he can also, like we've seen in the 2023 season, the right scheme, the right players around him, he can be an elite quarterback. I kind of have the same take, or kind of have the thought gauge. If Colorado starts out shaky, because I believe they will, people kind of question how good Shedeur was. Shedeur played behind a very, very bad offensive line. And I don't know if they didn't solve that in Colorado, you're going to see Salter kind of have the same struggles, but even in more impact to the team. So if, Colorado starts off kind of rocky, by the time Colorado rolls into West Virginia, we could see Julian Lewis, who passes the eye test as a 4-star quarterback freshman.
Yeah, Salter will be looking for a bounce back year because, I mean, like you said, this last year was not pretty at all. Almost not, just a little under 1,900 yards. So a lot of question marks there for not only the Colorado quarterback room, but really the team in general. And going into our next one, Noah, once again, a familiar foe and a team that feels like we haven't beat in like 20 years, but I know that's not the case. Let's talk Morton from Texas Tech, who on paper had a really good season this past year. 3,300 yards, 27 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. But the QBR kind of concerns you a little bit. Only a 56 QBR, a 139 passer rating. Dare I say that this is a true college system quarterback? Like, is this a guy that really benefits from being around Texas Tech, who is going to be coming into this year with the most amount of money spent in NIL and Big 12? Or am I overseeing something? Because, I mean, he definitely has had signature games against us, obviously, where they beat us last year 52-15. He threw for 359 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Oklahoma State, 401 yards. It's like, I don't know. He's obviously very talented, but I think that there are some weaknesses that you can kind of, similar to Weigman, I guess, kind of explore and get him to cause turnovers and a lot of 3-and-outs, things like that.
Yeah, whenever you look at Morton, I think he kind of is a guy that benefits from the quick game, right? Texas Tech likes to throw it out quick, get it out to the outside, let their playmakers make action, little swing routes out of the backfield. I think that's what Morton kind of benefited from last year with those really, really high passing yards and 27 touchdowns. Also, the thing was, Texas Tech had a phenomenal running back last year.
Taj Brooks.
Sure. Is he returned, Gage?
No, he got drafted in the 6th round this year. Yeah, this past year, or this year for the NFL, to the Bengals.
Yeah, so I thought he got drafted there because, I mean, Taj Brooks was a very, very solid running back, and that always helps any quarterback. Every single quarterback will tell you if you have an elite run game, you're going to be pretty good at passing the football because safeties have to come up in the box. The big question mark is his mobility. I think he struggles very, very mightily in the mobility thing. And we all know in college football, when things break down, to be that elite quarterback, to get yourself in situations late in the game if you're trying to make that drive, mobility is a big thing, especially when you're playing a Zach Alley-driven defense.
Yeah, and I mean, you said it best, man. Don't get it twisted. Like you go look at his numbers. I mean, it's not a fluke that he threw for almost 3,400 yards. It's like he's a very good pocket passer, but sometimes that can get you in trouble, especially with a team which we're hoping in terms of our defense, we kind of live and die by this blitz. And this could be a game for us versus Texas Tech where if the blitz isn't getting home, it could be, another ugly game. I'm not hoping and not saying that that's the case, but that's kind of going to be the overlying theme for that game as long as he's, healthy playing quarterback for them, which he will be. And yeah, I mean, he's obviously scary. When he has time in the pocket and make reads, he will absolutely shred you without a doubt. And like I said, when you're spending that much money and leading the Big 12 with all the NIL money spent, Texas Tech's going to be really good this year for sure. So number 4, do we have to speak positively about this guy? Because as Mountaineer fans, it's like, I hate giving props to this kid, but Eli Holstein from Pitt is he's not bad. No, I mean, let's be honest about something. This kid is not a bad quarterback at all. Hence as to why, we basically blew the 10-point lead there with like 4 minutes to go, whatever it was. Eli Holstein was the one who stepped up in a big situation and led some of those drives to win the game, obviously.
Yeah, Gage, it's kind of funny. Holstein kind of reminds me, and I don't even want to say this, right? So don't kill me, Mountaineer Nation. But Holstein reminds me of Skylar Howard, that toughness winner mentality. He not the flashiest guy, not the biggest arm, just a guy who goes out there and gets it done. Just a guy who goes out there and gets it done. And that's what Holstein reminds me of. Very solid, very poised, no situation too big for him. And the thing is that really made me realize how good Holstein was, even though he doesn't have numbers that pop off the chart, is whenever he was out of the games the past year, I think he missed 3 games due to injury, they weren't very good. Pitt was very, very bad in those 3 games whenever he was gone. So that just kind of speaks to me in the sense that, for one, Pitt is better when Holstein's on the field, and 2, we already know about the rivalry, Gage. Pitt is going to get the best from Nico or Henderson, whoever ends up being our starting quarterback. But West Virginia is also going to get the best from Holstein at quarterback for Pitt. So it's kind of like he's going to elevate his play a little bit because he understands that this is a huge game in the season. This kind of can make or break your season.
Yeah, it's the only game on the schedule that matters for both these teams in a sense. But yeah, last year versus us, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. You said it best. He obviously went down with that injury. They were kind of running on a little skid there before. They lost to SMU, UVA, and then he got hurt in the game versus Louisville. And then obviously when he went out for the rest of the year, they kind of had a revolving door at quarterback and went on to lose, including those 3 losses that he was a part of. I believe it was like 7 in a row, lost to Toledo in their bowl game. So yeah, but yeah, he's good quarterback, and this is only a sophomore year. Still a lot of room to grow for this kid. Like you said, it'll obviously be a good game. I actually saw today the spread open as West Virginia underdogs -2.5 or +2.5, and this is kind of where we were talking about. If you really think that we are going to, which we do, that they will surpass the 5.5 win total for the entire season, that is one game where it's like, if you're not taking the future, you probably need to hammer that bet where they're underdogs. And a game, I'm sure, just as you got to do it, right? I don't know dollar amount wise what we'll be looking at, but you just have to do it, unfortunately. I did it last year. I paid for it. It is what it is. I'm ready to get hurt again, but I know Double R, Rich Rod's got us. We'll be all right this year. But last thing I'll say about Holstein, Noah, this will be somebody similar to Texas Tech quarterback. When you have a guy like Reed in the backfield as your running back, and we saw it last year too, that's where it's like you really, really benefit from having a good running back like that. You'll be seeing a ton of Desmond Reed. And is Rodney Hammond, is that his last name? Is he back? He was a senior last year. I can't remember. Maybe I'm thinking.
Was that the backer? Are you talking about linebacker?
No, that was there. I think they ran they ran 2 running backs versus us, I thought, last year. That just smoked us.
No, you're right. They did. They definitely did run a 2-back.
I'm pulling it up right here just because I got it. Desmond Reed. No, I don't know. Maybe I'm blanking. Desmond Reed only ran for 26 yards against us this past year. So once again, that was a game that we should have won and just it collapsed, choked. It's disgusting to talk about, and that's why we're going to completely move off because I just get pissed off thinking about it. So number 3, let's introduce Mountaineer fans to somebody who will be giving the Big 12 problems this upcoming year. Transferring from New Mexico State, Noah, Devon Dampier. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. Dampier or Damper?
Yeah, I think it's Dampier, but I don't know for sure, Gage.
Well,
your pronunciation's just as good as mine.
We will definitely know his last name within the first couple weeks of college football, Noah, because this guy is electric. We obviously saw and watched him play a little bit at New Mexico State. The only reason, not the only reason, he's a good passer, but the reason that he is number 3 on this list is if he is used correctly at Utah, this guy will run all over teams, man. We are talking about one of the most mobile quarterbacks in college football this upcoming season. Last year at New Mexico State, he had games. They played Washington State, ranked 18th at the time. They actually won the game. He ran for 193 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a loss versus Wyoming, 12 carries, 207 yards, 3 touchdowns for a 17-yard per carry. This guy's electric, Noah. It's obviously not like Lamar Jackson at Louisville-esque, but this is somebody who can take over a game if you're not ready to man up, spy the quarterback, and make sure you're covering all your kind of alleys on the defensive side of the ball. No pun intended.
The thing you have to question, Gage, is what will Utah be? Because Utah is defense year in, year out. They always have a solid defense. That's why they are always ranked very high. Offensively, they often struggle, right? They are kind of hard. They don't move the ball elegantly. Not a normal Big 12 football team. So that's where you kind of question, will they be able to utilize him to, the best of his ability? You almost rushed for 1,200 yards at the quarterback position with almost 20 touchdowns. I mean, you're looking at a guy who is electric. And the thing is, Gage, they haven't even tapped into his passing potential in my look on it, because New Mexico's receivers last year, I'm watching these guys drop ball after ball after ball, because when he is best, he's back there scrambling, making plays, and it's kind of like the scramble drill for the receivers where one breaks to the ball, one breaks away, and he's hitting these guys on the money, and they're not catching the football. So I really, really think Devon Dampier is going to be, he's kind of a guy that can easily fall in that 3 to 5 range, but at the same time, at the end of the season, we could be talking about him at number 1 with no questions asked.
And kind of my best comp to put a comparison on it is this was literally a mid-major version of Kyler Murray last year, right? Kyler Murray, obviously Heisman winner, things like that, but it's similar play style. Like that's kind of what you'll see. And like you said, if they kind of get the passing up to date with his rushing upside, yeah, the defense at Utah is always good, and it could be a long day for anybody in the Big 12 when he's clicking. So for sure, our last 2, Noah, obviously we talked about no Sawyer Robinson, no Rocco, no Avery Johnson, but we did not escape these 2 who obviously will be talked about as some of the best quarterbacks in the country, but top of the line in the Big 12. Number 2, let's talk Arizona State, Sam Leavitt, who obviously we all know college football playoffs, everything like that. A lot of expectation coming into this year, and kind of this growing theme that I'm seeing is what do some of these quarterbacks who had good seasons this past year look without a phenomenal run game? Last year, you look at Arizona State and Cam Skattebo, and now you wonder going into this year, let's be honest, in terms of college football, Cam Skattebo is he's one of those guys where he kind of breaks the system. Like he breaks defensive systems with how he's not, I don't know. It's so weird to say. He's not a fast runner by any means. Like when you watch him play, it's not somebody that's a burner off the edge, but you can't tackle him. And that's kind of how it is. Leavitt obviously had a ton of success this past year because when you have to stack the box, you're going to get a ton of one-on-one coverage. It's what you're going to see this upcoming season with West Virginia and Nico. So really, Noah, in a weird way, you're kind of hoping that we see some Sam Leavitt from this past year in Nico this year, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Gage, I think the biggest thing to look at Leavitt, threw for almost 2,900 yards, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He makes good decisions with the football. He doesn't put it in harm's way. The other thing to look at Leavitt is he's a winner. he is a winner. When you saw him play Texas in that playoff game, and I'm just going to be honest with you, I watched Arizona State a little bit in the Big 12 last year, but my first real good look where I'm looking at them is that playoff game between them and Texas. And I'm sitting there watching, and I'm like, this guy is out there playing with just absolute will. He's not as good as Quinn Ewers across the field. He knows he's not, but he is willing to fight and willing to play just like he is. So he has that mentality of he wants to prove himself, and that's what makes Leavitt very good. The thing that is very, very interesting to me, though, is that although Scatabo was a huge part of that offense, they returned their best receiver who had 1,100 yards. I can't remember the first name last
Jordan
name.
Tyson.
Jordan Tyson. So Tyson comes back 1,100 yards, 10 tutties. So they're returning their best receiver. There's obviously chemistry there. So you're going to be looking at a dynamic duo, in my opinion, in the Big 12 between Leavitt and Tyson.
Yeah, because coming into this next year, you have to replace 1,700 yards and 21 touchdowns from Scatabo. Like, that's what you're looking at trying to replace in this offense. And I imagine, at least 300 to 400 yards. Like Kenny Dillingham is going to want Leavitt to be right around that 32 to 3,300 passing yard season with probably Noah. I mean, they're going to air it out a little bit more this season just because you're probably not going to have that same rushing success that you did last year with Scatabo. So, projection-wise, they're hoping for him to be around that 32, 3,300 yard, 28 to 30 touchdown range. That's a lot to ask for a quarterback really going into his second full season. He played a little bit there at Michigan State 2023, first full season this past year. You mentioned Jordan Tyson, who will be one of the best receivers in college football this year if all goes well. And as much praise as we just gave him, it's crazy to think that there is one better on this list, and the best quarterback that West Virginia will play this upcoming season is TCU's Josh Hoover. One of college football's best kept secrets, but not to us, because when they roll into UNC week 0-1, whatever it is that they play, the word will get a pretty good, because everybody will be watching for Belichick. Everybody will be tuning in, and you will quickly learn who Josh Hoover is. This kid is a stud, Noah. We mentioned he played with some really good talent this past year. Savion Williams was a draft pick. Jack Besh obviously went to the Raiders in the second round. Really good talent on the outside. But if you watch this kid play, man, he is very, very good, and if not the best Big 12 quarterback with everybody. Me personally, I would put him over Rocco and Avery Johnson. This is my number one, I think.
Yeah, Hoover's phenomenal. Like you said, he did have NFL receivers he was throwing the ball to, but when I watched the film, I almost think Hoover made those guys better. When you look back at what he did, he puts the ball on the money. And the big thing is he has trust in his receivers. He's not afraid to throw that one-on-one ball and say, okay, my receiver's better than you. And that's what makes him very, very good. He has an elite arm talent, has the ability to get out of the pocket. And I think, I kind of think that Hoover will be a guy that might fly up a quarterback board here come NFL time.
Yeah, and they will have one returning receiver who will be very, very good for them. Eric McAllister Jr. this past season, 40 receptions, 762 yards, 5 touchdowns. And TCU will be an interesting team to watch in the Big 12 in general, but it all starts because of Josh Hoover, a guy who's capable of throwing to all 3 levels of the field with really good arm talent. And they're kind of a sneakier team in the Big 12. It would be interesting to see what they look like at the end of the year record-wise if they're competing for a Big 12 championship. So, with that being said, about 40 minutes of us rambling, giving some takes on basically the whole broad scheme of Big 12 and quarterbacks, things like that. Let's end it with our takeaways from WVU's kind of aspect of things. For me personally, I think what you have to take away is Zach Alley, and he knows this obviously, has to plan for a lot of dual threat quarterbacks. We will have weeks where sometimes the main focus on the defensive side of the ball will need to be to neutralize the rushing aspect more than the passing.
Yeah, whenever you look at our schedule, you kind of question, like, you and I were both fans of the quarterbacks we're playing, except, Hoover and Leavitt, because a lot of these guys are unproven. But when you look into it, a lot of these guys have that rushing upside. If you don't stay, let's say, I'm trying to look for a word gauge. If you don't stay with the thought in the back of your mind that that quarterback can pull the ball and run at any time, and or you don't contain the pocket and you let these guys get out of the pocket, it can be for a long game, especially if you're blitzing and it doesn't get home and they're able to evade and get out where you have receivers and cornerbacks in one-on-one situations.
And you now kind of see the big picture unfold of why they, Zach Alley has stressed time and time again about his defense, where linebackers are very important. You have to be able to read the quarterback, the zone reads that they're going to be running, options, everything of that nature. Your edges have to be disciplined enough to not only rush the passer, but to be able to literally hold the edge to make sure that these guys like Dampier, a couple other the mobile guys cannot escape around the corner. And then, of course, the problem where we struggled last year, you have to have a good secondary when you run into a Holstein, a Leavitt, a Hoover, a Morton, these pocket passers in the Big 12 who will absolutely shred you if you give them time. So it all has to come together and work as one unit, obviously, to have success. And that's going to be the glaring question for us. We've it seems like it's been forever since we've had a really competitive defense. So it's kind of my final takeaway, Noah. I'll kind of let you send us home, brother. Always a pleasure talking Mountaineer football, sports in general. Oh, actually, before I do, Noah, people I don't even know if they're still watching this now, but Amir Jenkins, the small little video I did, I just wanted to correct myself real quick. I said he's from Maine. He's from Massachusetts. I'm so sorry. That's on me. Massachusetts guy, not Maine. Sorry.
All good there, Gage. Really, what we want to let the subscribers know, we are still doing the giveaway up to 500 subscribers. We will give those pictures there you see behind Gage away. Once we hit 500 subscriber, raffle style, we'll pull your name. Make sure you're commenting on the videos. That way we know you're subscribed and you're not ghosted, because we know some accounts have the ghost on there. No big deal, but just make sure you comment so we can see who is. Gage, I really love this episode. I think this is very insightful for our fans. But like, comment, subscribe, guys. We really appreciate you tuning in. Until the next West Virginia video, we'll be back.
Yes, sir, man. And 42 minutes. If you watched every single second of this, make sure to comment. We'll cash up you $1 million because you are awesome for listening to this whole thing. See you guys later. Enjoy your 4th of July weekend. Have a cold one on us, man. Take care.